everybody, to the first inaugural flagship episode of Role Models. I'm expecting millions of listeners. Just right off the bat, that's what I'm expecting.
We've already got them queued up, ready to go. They're waiting for the episode.
Yeah, they're there. I mean, I've got people outside my window now saying, "When's the app going to drop?" But my name is John Santana, and
I'm Justin Taylor.
Okay. Do you want to start? Do you want to start talking about us?
Yeah, sure.
My favorite subject.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely my favorite subject, talking about myself. So, yeah, I mean, when it comes to sort of tabletop role-playing games in general, started quite a long time ago now, actually, thinking about it. It still feels like it was yesterday, in all honesty, but started with a little bit of Pathfinder, and then found my way to 5e, and I've pretty much been there for the most part of my tabletop career now.
Yeah.
I know, obviously, John, you've spent a fair bit of time playing a lot of other things. So
yeah. Well, we're going to kind of go into how we started a bit further down the line.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, again, it's one of these things that, I still consider myself quite new to the hobby. I still...
Oh, absolutely.
But then I kind of look back, and it's been the better part of a decade.
Yeah.
And it was, it's something that I immediately took to.
Mm.
I was quite reticent to start with, but once I started playing, that was it. Off to the races. And then once I started GMing, that's it. It was no looking back. I mainly play Pathfinder. I'm actually the Pathfinder venture agent for the city that we live in. I run a Pathfinder lodge once a month, but also I've started really delving quite deep into other systems such as Delta Green, the Cypher system, things like that, just to get that extra experience and try other systems that I thoroughly enjoy. So, needless to say, this is going to be a tabletop role-playing podcast. For those of you who are listening to us,
hadn't figured that out yet.
No fucking clue. Maybe they're going to talk about stock markets and shit like that now.
I mean, there are a lot of podcasts doing that, though. There are a lot of them.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, I think we may be the first tabletop role-playing podcast. I don't think I've ever heard one before in my life. An actual plays, fuck that. So, speaking of role playing, have you done anything this week or recently, or that
no?
You want to kind of brag about? And
I mean, I've mainly recently I've been writing something. I know you had a skim through it recently, so I've been writing that. I've kind of got to a point now where it's ready to play. But I'm prepping one of the 5e modules at the moment.
Okay.
For some relatively new players who have been playing for a little bit and they just want to try some different GM styles and that sort of thing.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
So yeah, looking forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to hearing about it. I mean, we now have an avenue where we can actually discuss these things. Yeah. Obviously, for any of my players who might be listening, you're not getting fucking spoilers. Go and fuck yourselves.
Oh, yeah. Well, mine might. Because well, let's be honest. We both know that when I get excited about something, it's very hard for me to keep it in.
That's true. I've been witness to that.
Yeah, you have.
So yeah, before we actually started this, I was kind of wondering what the tone was going to be, and I think within the first 30 seconds we've established it. So yeah, I'm comfortable. This is my comfort zone. But actually, I did try a relatively new system the other day, where one of my weekly games was a bit undermanned. So, Jason Bullman, who is the person who kind of first created Pathfinder, he is like the lead. I think he's the lead game designer at Paizo now. He, just because it's Jason Bullman, when I want to get Pathfinder 2nd edition and I want to see what I can do to it. So he has brought out, using Pathfinder Second Edition rules, he has brought out a zombie apocalypse game,
Ooh,
and it's called Hope Finder.
okay.
So I immediately went out and bought it and read through it, and I didn't really read very much into it because it was one of those systems that I bought as, to keep on my digital shelf
Yeah,
in case I ever needed to pull it out. And lo and behold, we had a
finally had the opportunity.
game where only two people were going to be present, and we
Mm,
said, yeah, let's give it a whirl. So I fully expected essentially Pathfinder in another setting.
yeah.
Holy shit, I was wrong. This guy can get design games in his fucking sleep, and he has created this engaging, immersive experience with a zombie apocalypse using essentially fantasy rules that I would have never expected. So he's kept stuff like the feat system, he's kept the three
hmm
action economy, he's kept
hmm
everything that makes Pathfinder,
Right.
but magic items have gone. The leveling is now a progressive leveling.
Okay.
The entire economy is gone.
Oh,
So you no longer use money to buy things, instead you use barter.
okay.
So everything you own has a barter value.
Right. Ah,
So in order,
interesting.
if you have a gun and you have to buy some water because it is micromanaged in this game.
Hmm.
If you do not drink enough, if you do not eat enough, bad shit happens to you.
Yeah. Well, I
So
mean that
you,
that makes sense for a survival style game.
yeah,
You want to keep track of those things.
exactly. So you have to go and give up some of the gear that you have in order to purchase food and water.
Interesting.
It is really cool. I don't. He's taken the whole concept of the hero point system from second edition
hmm
and made it much more relevant. The hero point system, for those who don't play second edition, is essentially you have these points which you can use for rerolls or to stave off death.
Okay.
Well, in Hope Finder, they do that, but at the same time, if you are bitten by a zombie, the length of time it takes for you to transform depends on the amount of hope that you have.
Ah.
So if you've got 5 hope, then it might be days. If
Yeah.
you've got 0 hope, it's going to be fucking minutes.
Now.
And it is just such a cool system, and I can't wait to play it again. So
That sounds really
that was
interesting. Yeah.
my tabletop role playing experience for the week.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to kind of be leaning heavily on that.
On that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. If anybody out there hasn't checked it out, I'd give it a go. It is definitely fun, especially if you're into the whole sort of Walking Dead. Now, The
Mm.
Last of Us is a big thing.
Yeah, that's
Um,
doing big things at the minute with the TV show and that, isn't it?
oh yeah, I still haven't seen it. Start playing
Me
the
neither.
game
I haven't
or
played the
seen
game
it,
either. Yeah.
and yeah, I'll get round to it. I'm
Yeah, at
guessing.
some point. Yeah.
Yeah,
Get a spare minute.
yeah, exactly. Just at one point, it's like, yeah, I'm tired of watching Friends reruns.
Yeah, it's I'm watching Lucifer at the moment.
Yeah, that's a good show.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
Mm,
It's kind of weird though because obviously I went from watching like Supernatural, right, and a
yeah,
lot of the actors in Supernatural playing like like main characters in that are also in Lucifer, but as different characters. But obviously
yeah,
they have very similar characters because it's the same sort of storylines, and that
yeah.
it's like Lucifer and Cain from Cain and Abel story and all that sort of thing. So like yeah, it's just really weird for me to see like different actors playing the role of somebody who's in the show as a different.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's trippy.
yeah. But I mean, did you get the joke in Supernatural that referred to Lucifer?
Wait, which one? I might have to rewatch
Yeah,
it because I think
the,
I've watched it the wrong way
when they
around for
visit
that.
when they visit Lucifer in the cage,
Yeah. Oh wait,
and he actually
What season is that in?
I can't remember the
Because
number.
I'm only up to season 12 on Supernatural. I haven't watched the
I think
last
it'd have
few.
been before season 12. I don't know. But at one point, the guy playing Lucifer says, "What am I going to do? Move to LA and start solving crimes?" But anyway, I'm hearing a lot of our millions and millions of fans that are going, "Oi, dickheads!
Tabletop.
Tabletop! What the fuck are you doing?"
Well,
so we did kind of touch base on our beginnings.
Yes.
In this hobby, and
Yes.
you and I started
At the same time.
essentially at the same time.
Yeah, we did.
And you know, I would hate to be the person who unleashed the likes of you and I
onto this world.
Because that person's got a lot to answer for.
He does, and he's going to do that tonight.
And he's going to do that tonight because, without further ado, I would like to introduce everyone to the man who kind of started all this for both Justin and I. The man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Scott Langford.
Hello. How's it all going?
Yeah, going good. You know, we're hoping for one listener at some point.
I'm pretty sure you guys will get a listener or three. I am pretty sure
of
it.
3. I mean, if
yeah,
it's 3,
absolutely. It'll be us 3 listening back later, but it's fine.
Listen, in a very small stint I did of actually doing live streaming role playing, I got a good couple, like 40 or 50 hits on each
we'll
of the
be fine then.
You guys will easy sail through this. easy. No
we do. Well, thank you for the vote of confidence. And the first question that I think is going to be on everybody's mind is, what the fuck were you thinking?
Well, that's actually a very easy question to answer.
Lots of alcohol.
Funny enough, no. It happened to be at my sister's birthday in 2015, April 2015, where I met you, Justin.
Yes.
And we started talking about magic and things like that, and we touched on role playing. And you said to me, "I'm interested in role playing," and I went, I have a quest for thee. Bring me more players, and I shall grant one's request and wish." And you
so
did,
I did,
and it all happened.
I mean, to be honest, my recollection of all of that is somewhat hazy. I don't know why.
I can answer that with my previous answer: alcohol.
At that point, even Justin and I think we'd encountered each other a couple of times.
Yes,
but we weren't like, we had a friend in common. Yeah,
we had like mutual friends, so we'd like bump into each other every once in a while and have like 3-word conversations.
Yeah, and one night I'm out with another friend of ours, and how to say this delicately?
You delicate, please.
I was, please, people don't know me yet. I wanted that to be a very horrific surprise. I was fucking shit-faced. I think that was one of the nights that I was on the old Rosie, which is a mistake.
Always is.
Yeah,
Always
it is a mistake, and along comes Justin with this other gentleman, and the question was, "Do you want to play Pathfinder?" To which my answer was a resounding, "Of course I fucking do."
Yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah, fuck it, why not? Yeah, play, yeah, fucking, yeah. It's like D&D. Yeah, D&D, I've heard of that. That was it, and that was it. You, I think, the next day got in touch with us and basically gave us access to
materials,
to where we can find the rules on PFSRD and whatnot, and we just started consuming.
Yes,
at quite a feverish
at an alarming rate. Yeah.
I mean, I remember that Scott, when we first started to our group, said, "Okay, so you guys are going to pick something out of this part of the core rulebook," and it was the core classes.
Yes.
Whereas a bit further back in the rulebook, you had what were they called? It was another type. It was another
prestige class.
The prestige classes.
Yeah.
Like that. So we're reading through all this, and we'd selected our characters, and we hadn't even rolled a fucking dice yet. And we're going, I'm gonna speak to Scott to see if he'll let me be a samurai.
Which I firmly said no. Let's sit down
Yes,
to the
you did.
basics and learn the game
Yeah.
first.
Which I
Yes.
honestly I think was the right move.
It was 100%.
Yep.
Well,
Even though
I mean-
I did choose one of the most I think it's I dare say a difficult class for a beginner.
Listen,
Yes.
God rest his soul, or should I say, I rest his soul. He
Yeah.
was a very good character, very well put together, Nahash.
Yes,
He died spectacularly. You missed that, Justin.
I did. Yeah, I'd stopped with that. You guys at that
He
point.
died to being swallowed by a T-Rex, cut out of its own stomach, and then died in a plume of cinder cloud, poison cloud, and there was another cloud I used on that, and he died to that.
Yeah, so fucked.
Yeah, proper fucked.
Hey,
Just
listen,
basically.
2 people pissed me off that game, and I threw in a literally, right, so picture small village, little warriors come out, players handling themselves, meanwhile back at the ranch, I've got the wizard in the village going, buff, walk straight out, and I'm like, you know what, summon monster 10, 3 T-Rexes, play with that.
It was a good campaign. I think it was a fun campaign.
It was.
And like, bless your heart, you let us get away with some shit.
Do you know
Absolute
what?
murder.
But do you know what? The whole thing was we were all having fun, and the more you guys put into it, the more I built onto it.
Yeah, and I think that was a really good thing. It was very reactive, and you were a very reactive GM where we kind of go, we want to do this, and there'd be a moment where you'd pause, and there'd be a deep sigh, and it'd be like, yeah, all right then. And we did it. We kind of went down those rabbit holes, and you allowed us to explore, and I think that's an important thing for new players.
No, I agree.
Absolutely, yeah.
You allow them to do that because they come from a world where video games are, to a certain degree, restricted in what you can do.
Yeah, very
So
railroady
the moment
video games.
they
Yeah.
got that freedom, do whatever the fuck you want. Go for it, go man.
Yeah. I mean, considering that when you guys first started, you were not expecting sort of aerial combat, sea combat, or actual full-on army combat either.
Which we know in Pathfinder First Edition is very easy to run.
Yes. Yes.
It's simple. It's straightforward.
Yeah.
So
No, I think honestly, like just to touch on that a little bit is, I think that initial introduction that we got really gave us, because we had so much freedom and you gave us that freedom. I honestly think that's why we're still doing this today. Like, just being completely honest, because
100%.
It let us, you kind of let us fall in love with it instead of telling us why we should love it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what did it for me.
Holy shit, that should be on a t-shirt. Like that is a quote.
That is a good quote.
Episode 1 and we've got merch.
Yeah, check out our merch store.
It doesn't exist yet, but give me a minute.
Hold on. Here's an extra piece. Don't force us to fall in love with it. Let us to fall in love with it. Belhaim, the place where we started.
True. Well, let me just get a white t-shirt and a Sharpie. And I'll be right back.
There we go. Homemade merch.
There you go. What's it going for now? What's the going rate? $19.99? Yeah, let's do it.
There we go. Unique.
But yeah, I mean, you were our shepherd, as it were, into this world where, I'm 40 years old now, and over the course of my life I've kind of fluttered in and out of hobbies.
Yes.
Whether that was Warhammer, whether that was fucking skateboarding, whether I've just nothing stuck.
Yeah.
There always came a point where it's like, I'm bored of this now.
Yep.
Let's try something else, and I'd move on to the next thing. Maybe a bit of music production, maybe a bit of this, and I'd always dabble. And because of the campaign that you ran, this is the thing that I've kind of latched onto with dear life, and gone, I'm not letting this go. This is a character defining hobby for me.
Yeah.
Well, let you guys in on a very small little secret. I mean, I just moved back from South Africa after spending 26 years living over there.
Mm-hmm.
I literally, the only person I knew in where we live was my sister. And from meeting Justin, funny enough, you bringing these players, yourself, Couch, Chris, and John, straight to me to actually start playing the game, I ended up joining the town's social role-playing society. Then I ended up, I don't know if you know, I actually became part of the board of the party to actually try and keep the club going for a while. And then literally it broke off, and I've had where John's now taken over. I mean, I've not played since John's taken over, but in his the Pathfinder Lodge, I've run a couple of games there. I've helped out there, and I've had a number of different people in my games, and it's a good little community. I mean, everybody's friendly. Everybody likes to do things. Everybody wants to have fun.
Yeah.
And it's for you guys. You actually helped me out a hell of a lot. So I think it ended up becoming a nice two-way little street.
Aww.
Yeah, I mean, bless you for saying that, and it is, and I do agree. I think it was, it certainly changed my life. Because without this hobby, it kind of gave me a lot of purpose, and I think we have just
I think we just
briefly
lost. Oh, he's back.
Scott,
Nope,
but
He's back.
He's back. There we go. But yeah, without this hobby, I'd have been a very different person.
Yeah,
and it has helped me in a lot of ways to kind of come out of my shell a tiny bit, because I've always kind of struggled with social interaction, but this hobby kind of puts you, or should I say, gently eases you into social interaction. And I've gone from rolling up a bard for Scott's first game to being a venture agent for Paizo for the city of Southend, and running a lodge.
Yeah.
So, that's all thanks to that. None of that would have happened if it wasn't for you, Scott.
No, thank you. Honestly, I don't really quite know what to say to that. You're welcome seems a little bit too... I don't know. It just doesn't seem right. But you know what? I'm glad I actually had a good impact on you.
Oh, huge impact, massive.
I mean, for me, I was very similar. I mean, I've suffered with insomnia since I was like 13, right? So I would often I've gone through so many hobbies at this point that when people say to me like, "Oh, what are your hobbies?" I'm like, "How long have you got?" Because I was the same. I would flip through things and I'd get bored after I'd do it for a month. I'd get really good at it, or to a decent level at something, and then I'd be like, I'm bored now. And this from that first game that we played, I mean, half of my flat right now is dedicated to building terrain pieces. I've got foam wire cutters, I've got 3D printers, I've got loads of stuff now that's all dedicated to this hobby. And yeah, aside from gaming, video gaming, it's the only thing that's really stuck around in my life for more than a month.
I mean, I must admit, with what I was doing with Roll20 was phenomenal. I paid for the subscription. I didn't go for the top tier, but I did that $5 tier where it gave you the dynamic lighting. And sitting there, I would literally... how many hours have I lost to Roll20? I will tell you now, and I've not been on there for a while, okay? But since I started, I started off, Tom Parker got me onto Roll20, okay? That's when he started running his game. I've got 4,632 hours dedicated into Roll20.
So just a few.
I mean, the only thing that beats that is your porn addiction.
Don't tell everybody.
All right, sorry. We can edit. I'll edit that out.
It's fine. He won't. That's staying in. That's going to be the opening clip.
I realize that. What to expect? Scott's porn collection. But literally,
if we needed an episode title,
there you go. There you go. But I mean, the amount of hours I sat there, found maps, trying to get the match to the grid, and then you got to sit down there and trace around the outside for your dynamic lighting, setting up torches here and where the sunlight comes in there. I spent a lot of hours. So when players walk in, you walk through a dungeon, and as your character goes through the doors, it cuts out the light behind you and opens up the light in front of you. It's a lot of hours.
Yeah, I mean, I think that really just goes to show like how many tools are out there and how great some of them are.
Oh yeah.
For this like whole hobby as well. I mean, like you were saying there, like with Roll20, with like the dynamic lighting they've got and all that sort of thing, and also just like some of the character builders that you've got for different systems. I mean, obviously, because I mainly play 5e, the one I use the most is D&D Beyond, right?
You've
and
also got
that's where
Aurora.
I spend like 90% of my time is D&D Beyond.
Yeah, I mean, also there's a program 5e builder for you called Aurora, which has most of the books out there for D&D.
Okay.
And you can literally sit there and build an entire character from different traits, different races or sub races. It does a lot for you.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things I really like with like again, I mean I'm going to use D&D Beyond because it's the one that I've got the most experience using. But like if you've got access to the books in there, which I do through myself and a few other people, like some of the stuff that you can build is just really fun, and it just makes it a lot easier because they also have like a huge collection of like homebrew stuff that you can very easily add to your characters as well, and add to your campaigns through that as well, because they also have like a campaign builder and campaign manager system, which I'm using at the moment to build up the campaign that I'm writing.
It is. I mean, we certainly have seen a surge in popularity, and we all know what the driving forces behind that have been. But it's also that just the communities themselves have been growing. Because you mentioned campaign managers. The first dedicated campaign manager I had was Realmworks. And that was done by Lone Wolf. Is it Lone Wolf? I think it's the same guys who do Hero Lab.
Yeah, Lone Wolf.
And it was okay. It wasn't ideal. There was still some gripes I had with it, some issues that were missing. But it had a community. It had a community around it. And Realmworks, they decided to pull the plug. Everyone kind of went their separate ways. But this community stayed alive. And all of a sudden, one day, one of the people that was most vocal in this community went, "Hey guys, try this." And he brought out, it's a note-taking app.
Right.
Called Obsidian.
Ah, yes.
And the thing about Obsidian is that it's modular in nature. So people can make, like a community can make plugins,
right,
which extend the functionality of it. And one of the largest communities for this application just happens to be a tabletop role-playing community.
Right. So
it is phenomenal.
Right. So I've got a question. Okay, for those out there, including myself, because I've never used one of these module thingies. What does it entail? What does it allow you to do? Because when I set the adventure up for you guys, I didn't have access to any of this. I didn't even really know how to operate Roll20. So everything I did for you guys were either drew everything out myself, or I had those tiles. Do you remember that first little crypt you guys went into?
Oh yeah.
I actually had those printouts and cut them out and then put everything.
No, I remember that. Yeah.
No, I mean what the Obsidian. I don't know about D&D Beyond, but Obsidian, it again, you kind of make these notes, and each note is whatever you want it to be. Whether you want it to be an NPC note, whether you want it to be a location, whether you want it to be an adventure, and you can very easily and very sort of automatically link things between them.
Right.
So it will, like, if I write out an adventure now, I do my adventure template and I add things. If I mention something that I've already got a note for, I've got a little sidebar comes up and says, "Oh, do you want to link these two notes?"
Oh, nice.
I go click, and that's it. The note is linked. I could spend hours talking about it, and unfortunately, that's not the amount of time we have. But I can forward you any information over about this application. It's free to use, and it resides on your computer, but you can access it on like a cloud drive.
Right.
So you can access it from your phone, from wherever, and it is phenomenal. It is a really good piece of software, which you have to kind of put the work in to get it set up the way you like it.
Right.
But you only have to use what you really need.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. There are some people out there that are doing ridiculous things with it.
I'll have to look into that when I sit down to do my writing of my history of the cyberpunk game I want to write.
So,
yeah, I mean, yeah, like John took me through it actually a little while ago because it was so basically I've never really run my own like homebrew setting before, so I'm writing my first like proper one at the moment, and obviously John is someone that I've spoken to a lot about running and stuff like that, so I asked him to give it a little once over for me. And then he went through that program actually during that conversation, and it does look like a really, really good, powerful tool.
Cool.
If you use it right as well, it just takes care of so many of your note taking like responsibilities as well. Because like John was saying, you're never going to have that situation where you like randomly mention an NPC and then 6 months later one of your players goes, "Oh, do you remember Dave from that town like 6 months ago?" And you're like, yes. You don't have that anymore because like, yeah, here he is. This guy. Yep. What about him? So it just helps keep everything like together as well, which is quite nice.
God bless the NPC debacle. I remember I was in the homebrew I'm running. They were in this city, and I wanted to introduce them to a captain of the guard who would at first be an imposing, threatening figure. But then, like, if the story proceeded the way I intended it to proceed, he would become a valuable ally. So I introduced him to this guard captain, and every single one of my players were like, "Yeah, fuck this guy," and they were actively taking the piss out of him. I mean, he was arresting them and telling them to surrender all their weapons. So they were like meticulously role playing every single item they were putting down, and it's like, you absolute arseholes. And so then I went, okay, fair enough. Had him killed off and brought in his boss, who actually had the desired effect. But yeah, just the NPC, that it's weird how they latch on to people.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, when I created the game for you folks, when I first ran it, the first guy you ran into, which you thought was a boss, was literally just, you guys didn't know he was just like the first mini boss you guys ever faced, and I'd planned to bring him back, so I had a contingency to say survive. But I see where you're coming from. Just create that one character that just irks everybody.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, I create a lot of characters that irk everybody, but that's normally on purpose.
I mean, that's also kind of my specialty. To this day, I still get wound up about being in a tree.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. I forgot
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know who hasn't?
John.
Chris. No, Chris.
Oh, Jesus.
I get weekly reminders about my character being in a tree for that one encounter.
Weren't you doing that dwarf rogue?
No. So the dwarf was my first character. No, yeah, my dwarf was a barbarian. But then we had somebody else join who was going to play a barbarian. So then I rolled my rogue, Quill.
Right.
And then Quill was up in a tree during like their watch one night. And then you had something attack us that night. So instead of climbing down, like taking rounds to climb down from the tree, I just stayed in the tree. And yeah. And unfortunately, my dice did what my dice do, as you two well know, and our audience will very, very quickly realize. dice hate me. It's not got any better, Scott, since those days. If anything, it's got worse. So yeah, it's the dice did me dirty,
Justin's gonna
and
roll. Get ready for that one.
well, I made the mistake of for his birthday, I bought my current DM, Chris. I bought him crit fail cards. Now the issue is, I'm the only one that rolls nat ones at our table. So he got everyone to vote on whether we use them. I was like, why? I'm the only one it's going to affect.
So when Justin and I talked about doing this podcast, one thing we kind of realized is that we were going to struggle to find any stuff to talk about for an extended period of time. So I went out to the multitude of communities that haven't kicked me out yet.
Give them time. Give them time.
Yeah, I'm being a bit of I'm being quiet, so to speak. So I reached out and I basically explained what we were doing. We were doing a podcast in which we had no idea what was going to happen, but we needed content. So I asked if people wouldn't mind submitting some questions, and I'm happy to say that I got at least 3 times more questions than I expected we would get.
3 times 0 is still 0.
Well, I expected 1 and we got 3, so boom.
Okay,
I expected 0.
Yes, okay, fair enough.
All right, so the first question, it comes all the way from Florida, from Rachel. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, Rachel.
It's a long way to send a question.
It does, yeah. And it is essentially, what do you feel are good systems to use with children? 4 to 6, 7 to 10, 11 to 14, 15 to 17. Or what ages would you group for what systems and why? So I think we're going to turn that one over to someone who's heavily researched this, Scott.
Thank you very much. I wish I had. If I'd have known I'd have gotten this question, I would have done some research. Basically, when you're looking at certain games, you've got to look at certain rules. I reckon games like Vampire the Masquerade for the mid-range, about like I would say 10 to 16, because it's fairly simple. I.e., if you want to do something, let's say you want to, let's say now you want to drive a car, so you're going to look at how many points you got in dexterity and how many points you've got in, let's say, drive. Take that many dice. So if you've got 6 points total, it's you grab 6 dice, 10-sided dice, D10s, and roll those, and that's where you work out your successes and your failures. I still reckon that games like Monsters of the Week, because it's more story orientated and has no real game mechanics per se, you roll a dice and that dice roll results in what actually happens. For example, ghoul jumps out, you decide to go up to the ghoul. If you're running something very much along the lines of a vampire or a supernatural is a good one to use. If you roll a dice and you roll a 3, both yourself and the creature will get wounded, or if you roll a 1, you'll get the wounds, or if you roll a 6, the creature gets the wounds. And it's pretty much a simple way of action.
Straightforward.
Pretty much, yes. Yeah. I've only played it the once. I enjoyed the guy who ran the game. The way he ran it, it was just a very simplistic. We played that
at the same time, didn't we?
Yes, we did. I think John was there as well, because Couch was running it at the time.
I wasn't.
John did play with Couch, but he played with Chris.
Yeah. Right, okay. I found that game system very, very simplistic. It's most games I've played, you've had to sit down and do some reading before you even considered running the actual playing in the game. Mind you, half the time I got told, Scott, you're role-playing. Okay, pick a class. This is what you do to roll it up. Let's go. Got no clue on what to do. Just hope to God I can swim. But when it comes down to the more heavier rule-based games, I reckon those would definitely be your kids from about 12 and up.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And yeah, the Monsters of the Week and like the entire Powered by the Apocalypse sort of range, they do lean heavily on mechanics. And they're very, very straightforward to pick up and very interesting. I do like the whole narrative aspect. But Justin, how about you?
So I actually have been looking into this because I do have a small human. So I was actually looking for stuff to get her involved when she's a little bit older, because she's still a bit young at the moment. But I have found some that I want to give a try. One that I've been looking at in particular is one called Toon. It's not strictly for kids, but the nature of it is very kid orientated. So it's you play as old school cartoon characters, right? With all of the cartoony tropes. So any violence doesn't matter because it's cartoon. It's not happen next episode. And it very much goes down that sort of line. And the rules are quite simple, but you can also simplify them further if the kids are younger. So it's one of those that you can really start them when they're very young and bring it up with them as they get older into more advanced games later on. So that would be one that would work for pretty much all the way through. And then there's another one for sort of the older teens, just before they start getting to the point where they'll be able to really do D&D and Pathfinder and that a lot easier. Is one called Bubblegum Shoe.
What?
So it's a team version of Gumshoe, which is a detective noir type game.
I just love the name.
Yeah, so basically you play as teen detectives. So it brings like all of those like Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew, all that sort of thing.
Right,
I mean that's what we grew up with. I don't know what the kid books are these days for that sort of thing, but it brings all of those kind of books. If the kids are into that kind of story and things like that, it could be a really good system for them to move in from there.
Well, I also have a little one, and over the course of this weekend, I thought we'd try some role playing, and knowing that the Cypher system does have a game orientated towards kids called No Thank You Evil. I hadn't purchased it when we played on Saturday, so I kind of made up a quick and dirty version of it, just using the basic Cypher rules. By the way, my kid is a demon rolling dice.
So the opposite of me.
The opposite of you.
And me.
I let him use my Comic-Con dice, the ones that come up MCM when you land a natural 20.
Right.
7 times.
Huh?
7 times I rolled up over the course of an hour and a bit.
I don't think I've rolled 7 nat 20s in my entire tabletop career.
That's insane. So, with that being successful, I went straight to Monty Cook Games and I actually bought No Thank You Evil. I bought the official version of it. It is a simplified version of the Cypher system, so instead of using a D20, you're using a D6.
Right.
Things called effort are now called try harder. Little things like that to kind of cater to younger sort of parlance, and it does kind of scale with their ages as well. So when they're building a character, if they're of a certain age or certain ability, there is a very stark simplicity to it. As they get older, you can add more layers of difficulty.
Right.
Make it a bit more complex and make them have to think about it a bit more, which I thought was fantastic.
So it's basically got your proper easy, medium, and hard levels.
Yeah, in a sense.
Fair enough.
And obviously, the more complex the character is, the more powerful the character is. But it was a really fun system, and it came with a bunch of adventures. I ran my little one through the first adventure, and he absolutely loved it. You know, even the initiative, because the Cypher thing is like a one-turn initiative. You don't get multiple actions. So it is quick and dynamic, and he absolutely adored that. So that is tried and tested for the 7 to 10 range. So some systems we can definitely recommend are Bubblegum Shoe, which I love the name, by the way.
Very interesting.
Was Poker Roll?
Poker Roll is one that I mentioned before we started recording, but I didn't bring it up now.
Yeah, sorry.
I was about to, though. So Poker Roll is a Pokemon-based role-playing game. So obviously, pretty much every kid these days is Pokemon's still huge, right? It doesn't seem to be going anywhere. Ash finally is a champion. And he's the 10-year-old with 20 years experience that every employer is looking for. But they've got a role-playing game based around Pokemon. So obviously the kids are going to be they're going to know a lot of the systems involved, the Pokemon involved. So it's going to be a lot easier for them to pick up. And the best thing about it, it's free.
You can't argue with that.
Yeah, I mean, I did look it up as a potential to do this weekend, but there was 400 and something pages. And come on,
that's a lot of pages.
Let's be realistic. I wasn't going to learn that in an afternoon.
No, not at all.
But yeah, I'm definitely interested in running it. And yeah, Pokemon 100% isn't going anywhere. It is still the largest IP ever created.
Yes.
So yeah, get your kids playing Pokemon.
Well,
again,
you've got the game version. You might as well try and do the roleplay version, which is going to be along the same lines.
I'm sure they need a shout out from us.
Oh, absolutely, they do.
Just to help boost sales.
Yeah, Pokemon definitely not big enough. They need us.
And also, there is a game which I personally will never play, and a friend of mine always tries to use it up as a joke. Is you do have a game called My Little Pony. I actually do not know what system that runs.
I have it on my list. I can tell you.
Go on. To be honest with you, I'm
called
curious.
Tales of Equestria.
Right.
It is literally My Little Pony, but tabletop role playing game. So,
right, so
it's relatively non-violent. So if you're worried about your kids getting violent from games, like the whole video games make people violent argument, there's very little violence. It's very low stakes. So it's not like someone's trying to destroy the universe. It's none of that stuff. And it's just really wholesome. And if your kids are already into My Little Pony or shows of that nature, like there's one my daughter's watching called Rainbow Rangers, which is it hurts me, guys, but she loves it. So this one is another one that I've actually looked at for getting her involved because she loves that sort of thing already. Right. So Tales of Equestria.
I have actually watched the odd episode of My Little Pony with my daughter, and I've got to say, not too bad.
Fair enough.
As far as kids programs go, yeah, I've watched a lot worse. But here's my idea: we're gonna set up a Patreon.
Yes.
And one of the goals is we're gonna get Scott to play Tales of Equestria.
Yes.
Good luck. Good luck.
It's going to happen. We're going to make it happen.
Good luck with that one. No, Damien's been trying years. He's actually gone out and bought the book.
Okay, so let's move on to the next question.
Yep.
Sorry.
Okay. Right, let's have a look. Right, so what makes a good roleplay group? That is one that was sent in without a name.
Ah.
So, what name should we give this person?
Pick and pay, no name brand.
Alright, yeah, well, there we go. So, yeah. Okay, Justin.
Yes.
What makes a good roleplay group?
So for me, it's as long as you guys can have a good time, like, away from the table as well, that's going to translate into your game. So a lot of the games that I've played in that I've enjoyed have been with people that I'm really good friends with outside of the game, right? Like playing with like you guys and Chris and Couch and all that lot. I'm really good friends with you all outside of the game. So that kind of, it translates into a much easier time because you're not having to deal with, I mean, for lack of a better word, any aggravation at the table. Because if there's somebody sitting across the table from you that you just can't stand, it's going to make it really hard to, bounce off each other and role play because you're going to be grating on each other. Because let's be honest, we've all met those people that no matter what they do, there's something about them that you just cannot stand. So for me, that's the key. Is people that you can get along with above table, you'll have a great time at the table as well.
Fair enough. How about you, Scott?
I do agree with Justin there, but I've also been part of like the Role Playing Society or South End Role Playing Society and the Lodge. there are times I've gathered with people I've never actually role-played with before. And quite often, a number of them haven't role-played with each other, but where I've run the game, we've all had a good time. So I do reckon that a good sense of humor is definitely key. And basically, it's very difficult to explain, to be honest with you. I don't know. But basically, a lot of the groups I've actually had randomly thrown together, we've had some good times. But a case of, I do believe that a good group should be people who are interested in an actual game. Yes, it is a social gathering, but definitely people who want to play the game.
Cool. I mean, for me, I've always kind of liked the concept of everybody at the table should have a common element, which doesn't necessarily have to be in relation to the game. It can be a similar sense of humor.
Yes.
It can be a similar desire to role play, or there has to be some sort of common element which kind of unifies people and allows them to, like Justin said, to be able to get on outside of the game. Because if the game becomes that common element, then it can be quite disruptive, because sometimes emotions are high.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, people in games, they either make mistakes or there are disagreements regarding the game. So I think without a secondary common element, I think it's quite easy to have fallouts.
Yeah. I do agree.
Okay, so I think we've got one more question.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to be from the Museum GM, which can we just stop for a moment?
That name.
Yeah, just elaborate on that. I mean, the Museum GM. I mean, I'm getting a lot of sort of visuals here.
If he doesn't DM whilst wearing like an Indiana Jones outfit, I'm going to be very upset.
That would be amazing.
You know what? Yes. Also, for the fact that if you walk into his actual room that he's running in, you got to see some sort of like museum-esque type of statues or like weapons on the walls. Something that could bring the name museum, like some sort of history.
He just plays in an actual museum.
That would be fucking legendary. That would be absolutely legendary.
I'm thinking of a Wizards of the Coast and Night at the Museum crossover.
Oh, yes, please. Absolutely. Hollywood. Yes, please.
Hollywood, get at me. Just saying. I want money. I want monies for this fantastic idea.
Yes.
You see Ben Stiller playing with...
the guard.
Playing with, like, a resurrected Cleopatra.
Who's playing Cleopatra?
You got to have Diesel in there as well.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, obviously. Well, yeah. I mean, Vin Diesel's DMing, clearly.
Yeah, fair enough. He's wearing his tank top.
Anyway.
Speaking about his family.
So, the Museum GM, by all means, get in touch with us and give us a bit more context.
Yeah.
Because our imaginations are going wild.
We all have questions.
And he has a question. And the question is, how do you handle a situation where your players just want to keep clowning on each other instead of engaging with the game world? I know Scott's going to be the right person to ask about this because he's GM'd for us.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing I'm going first then on this one.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Right. So honestly, with that, you've got to let them have some sort of head of steam, okay? Obviously, they've got pent-up frustration or they've gotten onto some sort of idea that they've all found amusing. We've all been in that situation where in a game, something's tickled somebody's little, tickle spot, and it's just taken everything straight off. And
I'm sorry, but I think Justin and I are on the same
feeling very
wavelength.
called out here.
Yes.
Pent-up frustration and tickling.
Yeah. So basically, it's a case of let them run for a bit. You got to let them have some sort of how could I say this without sounding crude? Because I know you two fuckers. Basically, let them have a little bit of time to play, then after a while you've either got to try and you've either got to try and bring them back into the game or do a surprise. I mean, if you're doing it in the middle of a town, you can easily like roll up a random encounter where something happens and it gets their attention, and it'll try and bring them back into the game. Or if they're literally outside a town, throw a random encounter on them, bang, and if nobody's paying attention, surprise round, bitch,
They all
bang.
dead.
Pretty much. And or if you really have to, yes, I know it's a game, but if you have to be the adult and say, come now guys, that's enough, let's get back to the game, that's another way of doing it.
That's fair. Justin, how about you? What do you think?
Yes, I mean, I've been quite fortunate in that I'm mostly at the table doing the clowning, not having people clown at my table.
Me too.
It's funny that. But what I have found effective when I have been clowning at tables is, I mean, obviously the stuff Scott said, because he did that to us. So we know that works. The other one that I've had experience with is we were running, I say we were running, I was playing in a campaign that a friend was running where we had 2 new players to tabletop gaming. So they were doing a lot of the clowning that you do when you first start, which is the, I hit it with my axe, no, I'm only joking, like that kind of thing. And it got to a point where, obviously, for the most part, most players will get to a point where that kind of gets boring and they stop doing it, or they just realize that that's not the way to be doing things.
Right.
These guys weren't, so they kept doing it and kept doing it. So what the GM did the one time is they just rescued a bunch of like captives and slaves from these bandits, and they were all like kind of lined up against the wall. And one of them was like, "Oh, I'm going to jokingly swing my hammer at one of them," because he had a big war hammer. So the DM says, "Okay, roll." And he ended up just splatting one of the survivors' heads against a cliff, which meant, of course, everybody scattered. And then very quickly after that, they reined it in because they realized they can't do that anymore.
That's a good way of doing it. And I hope they actually put an arrest warrant and a warrant of arrest out for
they did. Yeah,
murdering.
no, they did. Yeah, they absolutely did. And it then turned into a narrative element because then they had to run away, and it became a whole thing. So that was a really good way to kind of cut out the above table behavior that you didn't want, whilst having like sort of ramifications in game, which I thought was really good.
I also do, as a GM, find dropping a harder encounter on their heads gets their attention quite
just
quickly.
to make them kind of go, "Oh, hang on a minute."
Yep.
I mean, my sort of technique is that I'm probably the worst one at my table anyway. So, you know, if they start clowning, 100% I'm going to join in.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to join in. I'm going to make it funny. As funny as I can, anyway.
Yeah.
But what I will do is that it kind of all boils down to how I write my campaigns, where I don't write specifics. I have goalposts.
Okay.
So I know where the players are meant to be heading. I know where they have to get to, how they get there, and what directions they take, and however many times they get sidetracked. That's going to be all on them. But I need them to get to that point. Now, if they're going to waste a lot of time, they need to remember that the world keeps turning.
Yes.
So if there are any sort of evil plots and plans in the works behind the scenes, and they're out doing whatever they're going to be doing, then, you know, the bad guy's plan is going to be further ahead than it would have been had they have reacted initially. So, you know, I let them do whatever they want, but I also add in the concept of consequence.
Mm-hmm.
Normally via an NPC who kind of goes, "Oh, if only you'd have turned up here 3 days earlier." Just to kind of rub it in.
Yeah. It's like, "Oh, if only you'd been here 15 seconds ago. That would have been amazing, guys."
That would have been awesome. My dog wouldn't have died.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that is all the questions. I want to thank everyone for writing in. And I think that's pretty much all the time we've got. So, Scott, is there anything you'd like to add? Is there any way that people out there can actually find you?
Generally, I do streaming at the moment under the handle of Scotty2x1. I do prefer running a lot of the older games. At the moment, we found out, because we literally ran from Neverwinter's Night from the beginning up to the third story, which happens to only switch over to single player mode, and we were going to start running Builder's Gate, and we were also running what was the other one we were running? I would hold on, I will tell you now. Anyway, I was running both of those, Builder's Gates and Icewind Dale. That was it. We should be hopefully back on that. You could always ask me questions there. Also have my on Twitch, I do have a link to my YouTube page as well, so if you guys want to jump on there as well. But if you get me on Twitch, you can always drop me a private message and I will always reply. Always.
Thank you very much, and thank you ever so much for coming on.
That's my pleasure.
We definitely thought it was special to have the person who brought us into this hobby to begin with on as our first guest. I want to thank my co-host, Justin. Where can people find you, if at all?
So I do it every once in a while as well. I also stream over on Twitch, twitch.tv/HeyIt'sArctic. Lovely and creative name there. And obviously here, every single time we put up a new podcast.
Yeah, and I'm John Santana, but you can find me on most of the socials as @Natural1. I don't stream anything other than this, so yeah, you won't find me anywhere.
By design.
But thanks a million to everybody who wrote in. Thank you, Scott, for joining us.
That's my
And
pleasure.
thank you, everyone, for taking time out of your busy day to listen to these three jackasses.
Yes. Thank you very much, everybody, and thank you both for actually having me on. I appreciate it.
No worries. Good night, all.
Night.